Hello guys and welcome to the channel. If you are watching this video from the Discord, this is me basically doing a live draft, kind of giving an example to the newer players on how the draft is going to work, things to take into account, whether it's the slot draft, whether it's picking your positions, whether it's kind of knowing the risk and reward that certain players have in comparison to others. We'll see how we get on, but this is just for newer players, so if you've done seasons before, or if you just know the game enough, you probably don't need to watch this video. But if you're new and you kind of just want to get a feel for how the season's going to work, then let's see what we can do. So, like I said, live draft. So the best way to do it, if you go into league resources, if you can go to any of the drafts. Now we're going to use the SDL draft here. Now, if you're a new player, chances are you're going to be in the little league, unless you somehow do really well in the open bracket and through the gauntlet. In the little league, it is generally more generous as far as the players you get, because usually with the little league it's a smaller player pool. There's no guarantee it'll be that way this season, but it usually is. But I think the best way to do it is if you go to SDL, Junior League, HL, go to any of those drafts, you get an actual feel for what the actual drafts are going to be like. So keep in mind, if you're doing your team and you're building your team based off your mock draft, keep in mind the little league will be a bit more generous. You will perhaps be able to shift a player here and there to maybe a later round and still get even more value. So, but we're going to do a regular draft here with the SDL, and that way you kind of get a true feel on how you kind of need to budget your team and how the rounds are going to work. So, if I go to slot draft, if you look here where the letters are, these are your letters that you get a pick from, and here is the round you're going to be assigned. So if you pick A, you're going to be the very first pick, which means when you have free reign, you can pick whoever you want, assuming you pick, someone who was actually a first rounder. If you pick someone outrageous, if you're first pick and you're like, do you know what? I think I fancy Angela Del Vecchio. We will stop that. So there's only a certain level of messing up that you can do. We will step in if we need to and say, listen, we want this to be fun for you. We want this to be as fun as it can be for everyone involved. We don't want you to go 0-14 and just get blown out all the games, right? So you don't have to pick what's in the meta, but we will also at the same time kind of just pull you back a little bit if you do pick someone that's a little bit, a little bit out there. So if you're A, you're first, that means you'll be last for your second round pick. So that is a huge risk reward if you think that you can carry with that first pick, which does happen, especially with some of the better players. If they can get that first pick and they get, your Julie Dunkel, if they get their Henri Dijon, if they get their Jay Greens, they can carry with that type of player. If you're a brand new player and perhaps haven't played a lot of backyard in the past, or perhaps have not played online or a lot of online in the past, you might, in my opinion, want to go further down the list, go for some more safety picks and just kind of go for a much more well-rounded, enjoyable team rather than, a straight-off, full risk, straight out the park type team. So, we're going to go with K. K, I think anywhere from anywhere from I to, say, T. You're probably getting that area where it's very mid. Not mid in a bad way, but mid in the sense of it's not all the best players to all the bad players. It's all the very decent players you're going to get. So none of your picks are going to be, incredible. None of your picks are going to be like, wow, absolute steal. But at the same time, you're not going to get any players that are awful for the round that they're supposed to be in. So K is 11. So what I would like to do is here, if I do that, if I go to kid stats, here you have a full list of all the players in the game, as well as any ones that have special things like Kimi or Ekman, or picking Ahmed and Amir. Works very similar to how a regular single-player season would work in that sense. Tony versus Angela gets a big buff. Angela versus Tony gets a big buff. You get all that. So, 11. So the easiest way to do it, Julie, Henri, Leah, Jay. That's you 1 to 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, Kenny is number 11 on the tier list. Give yourself an allowance, I would say anywhere between 3 and 5 in either direction. And I think you could get away with using that as kind of your idea of who you're going to be picking in that letter slot. So you could probably say At 11, whoops, if you go to 11, you are looking at K. Realistically, I think K you could get a Chico or one of the Zs. Because I feel like someone like Pete might get picked very early, because Pete's very popular, because everyone knows Pete. So that obviously gives you an allowance to like move forward a little bit, as well as move a little bit backwards. If you want to move a little bit backwards, you can do that too. So, let's say we want to go for someone who I feel would be good for a newer player. For a newer player out of these, I don't think you can go much wrong with the Zs. The speed's a little bit lacking. That is the kind of the issue when you go with the Zs in comparison to the people around them. However, the batting's insane, the contact's insane. The Zs generally have really good stats in the little league as far as their batting averages and their home runs. So they're a good choice. You could go with that. You could go with Pete, because everyone knows Pete. 9 speed, joint fastest in the game. Not a bad batter at all. His arm's pretty good. Only issue with Pete is that his eye's terrible. Don't put Pete in the outfield. We don't like doing that. But with the exception of that, Pete's really good, and he's a 4 height, which is another problem with the Zs because they're 2 heights. We'll get to why height is so important later, but we'll just do a draft. So for now, I think we could go. I'm going to go Zenon. So Zenon Estrada, plenty of power. The arm's fine, I think. We can find arm from elsewhere. 68 is perfectly manageable. 2 height, yeah, it's rough, but you're going to have to pick some 2 heights at some point. And that is important, and again, I will get to you why. So, slot draft, go back to second pick, 38. So, this is where we're going to take a drop down. So basically, first round, you pick one of these. You're only going to get to pick one of these, realistically. It goes up to 24. So, we are now going down here. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, 38, you're round here. Same thing again. Give yourself an allowance of where you can go. I'd say for round 2, if you are going to pick somewhere like K, Maria will go quite early, because she's guaranteed to get the pink uniform. If you pick Maria, you're kind of insta-locked in at pink. I do believe you don't have to if you don't want to pick pink, but why are you picking Maria if you're not going pink, right? Unless you're picking her in a really late round, but you won't be, because somebody will pick pink Maria, right? So just keep that in mind. If you're going to pick Maria, you need to pick her early. I know she's Maria, and you might think Maria's not very good. It's pink uniform Maria. Pink uniform Maria is very good. So, couple either way. I think at this point what you want is again, you can choose to go really high risk. You can go for a Sophie Mayo or Mark Maguire, someone with massive power. Also 4 heights, so realistically you could stick these at first base. First base, what I would recommend, always pick someone who is at least a 3 height. Reason being, there is, I don't want to say RNG, because I feel like everyone just claims everything's RNG these days, but there is a modifier on chances to catch a ball. Height is a big helper in doing that. 3 is kind of like your level point, where it will go off the stats that they have. 4, it will be a little bit generous, and 5 is very generous. If you have a 5 height at first base, very rarely, and I mean very rarely, will they just straight up drop the ball. And even if they drop the ball, there's a chance that because they are 5 heights, they will get a second chance to grab the ball before it hits the ground. So 4 height is fantastic. 3 height is perfectly fine. 2 height is, again, there's nothing wrong with picking a 2 height, but you just have to keep in mind, if you are using a 2 height for an infield position, chances are they will be stumbling balls, they will be missing balls occasionally, it will happen. So I'm going to go probably for a 3 height here, someone who is a good all-rounder. I think I do want to get a bit of arm, and this is where you have to consider the previous rounds that you've had. So Zenon, it is Zenon. Did I pick Zeno or Zenon? Yeah, it was Zenon. So Zenon is a little weak in arm. Again, not atrocious, but I do want to pick someone who I feel has a bit more arm to him and is not too full risk. So I think I personally would go for someone like Claudio or Bowie. If I'm a new player, I want someone who's consistently good, and I want someone who consistently can get on base and can hit perfectly good shots. Bowie and Claudio will do that. 7 speed, good arms, 3 heights. The batting is perfectly fine. Coordination's defensive and fielding stat is fantastic. These are the type of players where you can put them in the outfield or put them in the infield, and they will do a great job. So I think we go Bowie. So let's put Bowie in. So round 3, 55. So 55. We're going to be losing these guys. We're going to be going down to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Lance would be 55. Give yourself an allowance. Again, Allowance is one of those players. Very high risk, high reward. He's got no arm. At all. Like, it's pretty terrible. His eyes, fine, but not great. His coordination is fine, but not great. He's got 1 attention. Especially at a lower level, if you're not very experienced, having low attention can be a nightmare because you won't get handheld as much by the game, and they will just straight up ignore the ball if it comes towards them with a 1 attention. You need to do a lot of manual clicking, so I wouldn't recommend someone like Lance or Parker if you're just starting out and you're new to the game. 5 height as well. Speed is a very valuable stat to have. As far as priorities, speed is up there. 7 is that sweet spot where I feel like 7's great. 7's about where you want to be. 6 good as well. 5, that is kind of your bare minimum, I think, of what you want for speed, unless you're going for someone who is pure power, like we'll use Joan as the example here. 4 speed, the chance of her getting to base is pretty damn low without some errors from the other team. However, if you're picking someone like Joan, 100 power, you kind of just want her to get over the fence anyway, right? So that's kind of the trade-off. So if you think you're an amazing batter, there's definitely some value in picking someone like Joan, like Parker, like Lance. However, if you want someone who's a bit more well-rounded, maybe consider, especially at this kind of level, this kind of round, where there's that many really good players to pick from, I'd recommend going for any of these. Personally, Debbie is fantastic. I think with Z, also having Z, you'll have 2 64 arms. 64 arms is not bad by any stretch. And I think with that, I is perfectly fine. 6 speed is quite nice. I know it's a bit of an early draft, but I still think 6 is perfectly fine. Look at the stats around you, and that's usually a great way to tell what you're looking at. So 6 here is actually quite generous. And 85 power and 95 contact. I actually think Debbie is insanely good. Insanely good. Her coordination is a bit rough. She will error now and again. She will drop a ball. A ball will go over her head now and again. But it's going to happen anyway. There's no way to avoid that. Especially when you get to the later round, you're going to get people who are just terrible at fielding. And to be honest, by the time you get to the 8th and 9th round, they're probably going to be terrible in general. In the grand scheme anyway. So I personally am going to go Debbie. But there's a lot of options there. Cal's really good. Nomar's really good. Brendan's really good. Brendan's really good. You can start with like your really good pitchers at this point. Frank Thomas is there. Christina Beattie is there. All I will keep in mind, what I will keep in mind is when it comes to pitches, there is a lot of pitching options in this game. It doesn't have to be a Frank Thomas. It doesn't have to be a Randy Johnson. It doesn't have to be, you know, these super high-level pitchers. There is people who can do really good pitching jobs in later rounds. I personally would prioritize leaving your pitcher for a bit and get these really solid, you know, players. These ones that are just always going to do a job for you. Consistency, I think, is key. So picking these type of players this early, I think, is really important. Again, I'm not you. You pick however you want to pick. But I think for a new season, you want consistency more than anything else. So I perhaps would give someone like a Frank Thomas and a Christina Beattie a miss and go for someone who just all-rounder is going to do a job. So, round 4, 84. So if we go down, these are gone. 73, 74, 75, 76, 7, 8, 9, 80. 1, 2, 3, 4. What is it? 80. What was it again? 84. Let's have another double look. 82. Okay, then. So 82 is Jeff. Again, leave yourself some allowance. Randy and Amanda are here for you to pick round 4. To be honest, round 4, Randy and Amanda, I'm considering at this point, at that draft slot, it's definitely considering. Lisa Crockett, I think new players, they look at Lisa's stats compared to the people around them and they think, she's kind of mid. I know I did. When I first started, I looked at Lisa Crockett's stats and I thought, she looks really weak compared to the people around her. Lisa is an incredible pitcher. You can put her on any of the bases. She will do a great job. She's a 4 height. Good eye. Coordination is fine. She's a 4 height. So that 50 coordination kind of negate it. Because she is getting a lot of help from that 4 height. The hitting, alright, the hitting's rough. But she's also a 6 speed. So she'll get there with a good enough hit. People have hit home runs with Lisa Crockett. It's a thing. It does happen. But I personally am still going to be saving my pitcher. I prefer to get later pitches. I have a person in mind who I think I might be able to get a slot draft K, but we'll see if we get her. I'm going to go for someone here who, again, I think is a really good all-rounder. I'm fine with using 5 heights. Like I said, 6 height is a sweet spot. So I personally here are going to go for Jeff or Hillary. I think they're the same person, by the way, so it really doesn't matter. I personally am going to go Hillary. So, Vargas. Hillary Vargas. This team, I'm loving this team already. This team looks strong. This team looks really strong. I'm liking this so far. 94 arm. Eye is perfectly fine. She's a 3 height. Coordination's good. Stamina, yeah, a little lacking, but she's that consistent. There won't be a lot of errors where she's going to drain too much of that stamina, I don't feel. And the contact is there, and the eye is there enough where she's going to be a consistent hitter. So, I think Hillary's a great choice here. If you want to play a little bit more safe, and maybe you want someone who is consistent but will also maybe have a bit more of a good chance of getting on base, Jason Kendall, Pamela Kirkos. Great option. Kind of similar, but you are sacrificing a little bit of arm and a little bit of bat for that extra speed, which could be definitely worth it. I think there's definitely something to be said there. What I will tell you is, you look at Mr. Clanky and you think 100 arm, 100 eye, 3 height, even though you can't pitch, just to clarify. He has infinite stamina, but he can't pitch. So you cannot pitch. That's kind of the one rule that has stayed consistent in the BBOL. You cannot pitch with Mr. Clanky, because he has infinite stamina and 95 in all his pitching stats. So it's not fair. However, despite the fact he can't pitch, this is a really good stat set. So don't be too put off by the fact that he can't pitch. There's a lot to be said for Mr. Clanky. But for us, right now, we're going to go Hillary. But just keep it in mind. So, slot draft 5 is K. Slot draft 5, K is 111. Now, this is around about the time where you start seeing a drop-off on the level of players. It's unavoidable. You will get to this round, and you will start looking at these players, especially in the round 7 past that, I would say. You do start looking at the players, and you start thinking, ooh, can I choose none of these? Unfortunately, no. So, yeah, 111. So, if we say that is 121, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12. Frankie Holly is 11. So, again, give yourself that allowance. Keeping in mind, again, in a regular season, there is some people who will pick some pretty wild picks because they like specific players, and because of that, your allowance of where you can pick from might change. There might be people available, like there might be a Mike available, there'll be a Libby available, something to consider, but I'm kind of just playing it safe here and going with what I would consider to be a safe draft, and these are people who will be around that area, who will be available. Looking at my team, we have enough power here to be happy. We don't have another huge hitter. I think Debbie definitely can be that. But I think we're going to go for someone who's a little bit hit heavy. Raphael and Petra, look at these other stats compared to power. High risk, high reward. I'm personally not a big fan. But if you're consistent, get them out the park and you're a really good batter, hey, definitely an option, right? But I'm going to go for someone who I think is a little bit more consistent. Now, this is that awkward round where there's kind of a lot of these one tricky type people. Carlos and Ingrid, I think, and Ezra are kind of your consistency picks here. Ivan and Wendy too. And what I will say is, These three here, do not sleep on them. Tanya and Uchida are very consistent. 6 heights. These stats are really good. If you can get these in that round, definitely consider it. I know they're a bit lower down on where our allowance is, but these are really solid. 48 arm, yes, but all the other stats are very consistent. Jim Kiley, 100 arm, decent hitter. 5 speed, fair. Aggression, 1, he will ignore the ball. But you have to consider it, right? It's definitely worth something considering. I personally am going to go for Wendy. I think Wendy is... I've used Wendy every season. She's incredibly consistent. 98 arm, 5 speed is fine. Eye and coordination is good. You can put her basically anywhere. I pitch actually with Wendy, which you look at Wendy and you think 18 stamina as a pitcher is very very high risk, and it is, but I feel comfortable doing that because I feel like I can manage stamina enough where I can be fine with having Wendy in that position. And it's nice to have that versatility that I can get Wendy, trade her out, and I can put her in the outfield on one of the bases, and I know she'll be fine. She'll do a job. So, Wendy round 5. Round 6 is 130. So, same again. Work your way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, Randy Bobby Bocco around this area. Again, at this point, you have to consider you're going to have to start sacrificing stuff. So if you want speed now, you're either sacrificing fielding stats, if you want a 7, or you're sacrificing batting stats in your Dantes. I personally, at this point, want someone who can get on base and still be half decent. I think Dante at 6 round isn't terrible. I think if you want consistency, Holly and Fernando here and Wing, this is where you can get some really good value pitches. These 4 here in particular are really good value pitches. Holly generally does quite well. Wing and Whitney are very good pitches, if for no other reason. 7 speeds with 76 arm. Not only do they have decent pitching stats, but they are going to get there and they are going to throw to first very quickly. So even if they do spill, which they will spill, 2 heights, 30 coordination, they can recover very quickly. I kind of slept on Wing and Whitney for a while. These are definitely worth considering. So just keep that in mind. I am actually fine for pitcher here because I picked Wendy previously. So I'm going to go for someone who I think is a bit more consistent. I think the play for me here... I think I'm going to go Liz. I'll go Liz. Speed's there. Arm's there. The eye and coordination is fine. She will do errors, but we're at that round now where errors are going to be unavoidable. They will happen. And hitting, while not great, this is your grounded type area, right? With a 7 speed, she can hit and she'll get on base. So I think if we go Liz, that is not bad at all. Right, 7 is 163. So if we go to 163, that will take us, as you can see, there's a big drop here. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So, at this point, if you haven't picked a first baseman yet, that consistent 3, this is kind of, not last chance, but it's very close to your last chance. So, if you haven't got a consistent first baseman yet, Jason and Melissa, I would very highly recommend. I used Melissa in Season 6. She was fine. Absolutely did the job. Great coordination, a 3 height. Yes, she's a 4 speed, and that's rough, but she's still useful to the team because 81 at this late of a round is really good, and she hits homers. She does. Giambi, Melissa do hit homers, so I'd very much consider this. 24 arm I know is rough, but if you're at first base, generally you're receiving the ball and not throwing the ball. Are you going to miss out on a lot of doubles? Yes, you probably will. Especially if there's someone already walking to second. But, hopefully, if someone's running to second while there's someone going to first, you've got a catcher like Jim. You've got a catcher who's got that big arm already. So, you're going straight to second. Going straight to second with the arm. and then go into first. So I think this is definitely worth doing. I'm probably going to go Melissa here. But remember that you do have that allowance to go either way. Colleen, if you need a capture option, if you need a catcher option, you can go Colleen, Chad, Tina, Vic. Decent options. Pitching, you could use Tina and Vic. We're getting into the desperation zone now, I think, for pitches, but it's an option. It's definitely an option. 6-speed, good arm. They have at least one good pitch, and 75 isn't terrible. Are you going to concede some runs? Yeah. But there's something to be said for these other stats. So keep in mind, always keep in mind that you are sacrificing some stats for others this late, and that's okay. So just remember what your current team has and what they don't have, and kind of go from there. We need a free height here, because Debbie, I probably want out in the field somewhere. Bowie is probably going to be my shortstop, and Zenon is probably going to be in field somewhere. But you'd figure all that out later, and where your position is going to be. 8 slot, 190. We're getting to the really rough ones now, so 9, 8, 1. Andres Ibsen. Andres Ibsen is a really solid late game batter. Unfortunately, 4 height. And not a particularly great defender either. In fact, pretty terrible defender. So a bad defender who also doesn't have the speed to recover very well. 74 arm is nice, but just keep in mind, if he slips, he's going to fall over. If that ball bounces and goes anywhere but right at his feet, it's pretty tough. Catching option, Butch is up there. And he's got really good eye and really good coordination. Honestly, if you have to take into account he's got 4 speed, but in the outfield, if you don't mind taking that risk, Butch is a good guy, he's a good catcher. And he's a good recoverer too with that 88 arm. Just keep in mind, that 4 speed will punish you. But it's definitely an option. I think I want Hillary in the field somewhere. So I think this is where I concede and get myself another arm. And I think I do go Butch. Now, the bad side to having my catcher is Butch and my pitcher is Wendy. Wendy's a 5-speed. Butch is a 4-speed. If it is a grounder that goes to the left and to the right, it might be tricky. But I'm allowing that allowance because Wendy has, like, what, 95, 98 arm. Butch has huge arm. As long as they get to the ball, realistically, as soon as they get to the ball, they are throwing it straight at first. And they're probably going to get there. So that's the allowance that I'm allowing myself. But keep in mind, if you go for a comp like that, it's going to leave you a little bit vulnerable to grounders to the left and to the right. So, 9 speed. We wish there was a 9 speed at round 9. Round 9, 194. These are your terrible players. Alright, these are not going to be good. This is who we've got. So, 194, Maria Ralph. So you can pick... You can leave yourself a bit of allowance again. Any of these. Now, I will say, if you get to this point and you still haven't got a pitcher, oops, definitely oops, because you probably should have took that into account. But if you don't have a pitcher, Kenny is very popular as a late pitcher. Probably don't want him as your first pitcher, maybe your backup option. However, 91 slow ball, 100 stamina, 6 speed. He does a job, and he actually does a very good job. However, I have Wendy. And I also have people like Melissa who can kind of stand in and kind of do that drafting job, so I don't need Kenny. But definitely consider your Kennys. I personally here am going for... I think because Butch is going at catcher, I'm... Yeah, do you know what? That actually works quite well. Because Butch, I'm now going to change. And this is what I mean by allowing yourself that allowance and allowing yourself that opportunity to, like, switch up if you need to. if I get Butch, I decide I want to take the risk and put Butch in the outfield. Great coordination, great eye. He's a 4-speed, but these are the sacrifices you have to make in your team when you get to the later rounds. You are going to have to make little things like that where you're like, oh, I'm a little bit unsure about them being there. It will happen in all teams. You just have to take that into account. So if I put Butch in the outfield, I can put Ryan or Serena at catcher. And 100 arm with good accuracy, that's definitely worth considering. And they can pitch. I personally wouldn't, but if you're desperate and you're running out of stamina, it's definitely an option. So I here, with my team, I think I'd go Serena. Yeah, I'm going to go Serena. If I find her. There she is. So, that is basically, that is it. That is how you set up a season draft. Just keep in mind, if you're in a little league, it's going to be a little bit more generous than that. Chances are, you might not get to Serena and Mariana. It's a little bit more generous, so you might more finish around this area. So, lucky you. I'm not going to have that luxury. But, yeah, just keep in mind. Just remember, certain stats are really important. Speed is very highly valued online. People like Vicky, even though you look at her power and her contact and think that is atrocious, she has 100 eye, 100 coordination, and she's a 7-speed. She is an incredible outfielder. So just keep it in mind. Billy, similar thing. Certain stats make them perfect for certain positions. Billy can't hit, right? And coordination may be bad, but she's a 5 height. You put her in first base, she's catching basically everything. Even with 30 coordination. Doesn't matter. She's 5 height. She's going to catch it. And then take into account your Betty Houstons and your Bobby Bullgreens. Massive power. Can't defend at all. But if you get to this stage, this late stage, and you don't have a lot of power, consider it, right? Eventually, when you get to these later stages, you have to ignore some of these stats and just think, do you know what? I'm going to have to make some sacrifices. Right? So this is just something to consider. So, you will get to pick your teams. You'll get to pick your drafts. You'll get to pick your colours. I think the teams are also done in draft. So, you might not get the team you want, but everyone will get a chance to pick the teams that are available. Hopefully, you guys really enjoy this season. If you need any help at all, I'm currently admin in the BBOL. Recently also became a mod. I am available basically whenever, right? I'm on UK time, so I'm going to be pretty far behind yous, but assuming it's not late in America, I'll be up, and I'll answer it, right? I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I hope you all have a really good Season 7, and above all else, just enjoy yourself, right? It's backyard baseball. We're not taking it too seriously. Just have fun, enjoy yourself, meet some new people, make some friends, and I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.